Works for me.
Okay, so we are good to go now, Mike?
We're good to go. We're good to go.
All right, so this is a special meeting of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting. And I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the April 13th minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Have a motion in favor?
So moved.
Okay, and a second? Okay.
Second.
Are there any comments? At the risk of having to go back to Mr. Swenson, a former member of this committee, I note that on the second page that a motion was made to assign F&P primary. Change that to B. That would be good.
One moment there, Seth. I didn't have them open. All right, so let's see. Second page. Motion made to assign. You broke up. Which one?
F and Papa P, it says.
Oh, there it is. I got it. Anything else?
All right. With that correction, all in favor, please?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And opposed? I see none. Motion carries. Next, we'll talk about the budget and assigning committees. We have, I sent you the numbers. There's sort of a first collection of memos out there which sort of show the budget items. In assigning committees, usually for the budget, we assign all committees. Is that okay with everybody?
No,
Obviously primary is Jack. The F&B.
but I think it's that's not correct. On the first one, we should go through them because there's multiple resolutions this year that we do not typically have in other years. So on the overall budget resolution,
I mean, you'll introduce it as
I don't know
primary,
what
right? You'll introduce it as primary, right?
yeah, but there's different sections that different people report on, and not on every section, and we assign it by section. So section A, which deals with the capital, is first F&B, and then any other committee that wants to report on capital.
Yeah.
Secondary.
Yeah, all right.
On resolution 20, whatever this number is, -B,
Yeah.
it's F&B primary, and again, all other committees with the exception of education.
All right.
On C, that's moved by education with F&B secondary.
Yeah.
D and D is which vote is F&B, and we do a voice vote.
Yeah.
E is F&B. F is F&B. And G is F&B.
Okay. And then we've got.
So that deals with that one. I'm getting to the other one. I gotta go get the other ones. Hold on.
Hey, Jack, you gonna be able to send that to me, or can we go through them? I didn't have
Yeah,
to
I'll send you that.
Or if you want it, we can just go through it one more time, and I'll fill it in right on the resolution.
I can do it one more time. That's not a problem. I just have to get back to the right page.
Yeah, no
Hold
worries. I got the first couple. So A was...
Okay. So the first one is, what's number are we using for this, Seth?
I believe that we don't have it yet. We just got these.
Okay.
All right, so we're on A.
All right.
A is the .29
So A
million.
is introduced by F&B primary, and then all other committees can speak on capital. This is only on capital for A. On B, F&B primary and all other committees, with the exception again of TGS&A and education, because it deals with the selectmen's operating budget. On
Okay, so
C,
yesterday and which?
I'm sorry, say that again, and education.
Got it. Thank you.
So they're excluded. C is introduced by education, and F&B is secondary, and that's the only two on that.
Hang on 1 second. Okay.
D, E, F, and G are just F&B. So that takes care of the first one.
Right.
Then we have the resolution. Okay, then I'm on the next one is resolution appropriating $30 million to refund certain of the town's outstanding bonds and authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds or amounts available in unassigned fund balance to finance such appropriations.
This is the hang on a little bit. The pre-funding resolution.
Yeah,
Just 30 million bonds. That'll.
Yep, I got it. Who's
Right.
on that? Yeah. B?
that's just F&B. And it does, just so that everybody knows, it does reflect the changes that we made in the October meeting of the RTM to now include the amounts available of unassigned fund balance, which we amended in October. So this one should cover both parts of that. Then we have a special appropriation.
Bonds and notes for $1,015,000.
Hang on.
No. No.
Yep, I got it. It's not $1,015,000. Is it a special appropriation?
For various capital. All right.
21.
So now we have a special appropriation for using bond premiums
All
for
right.
$216,000
Yeah.
to pay for interest.
Yeah.
That's just F&B. It's an accounting thing.
Yep.
But I will say that we may need to vote on that prior to voting on the budget, in reality. But
No, I was just asking, why is that? It's Patty.
the reason is because we're using $216,000 from the bond premiums to pay for the interest on some of the bonds this year, thereby reducing the budget by $216,000. So that interest amount is, there's no question about that. And so if it's for any reason not approved, then we have a $216,000 deficit in our budget.
Right.
But you don't anticipate an issue, do you, with the vote on that?
No, but
No,
I'm
it's
just
more
saying that we have to do certain things in order.
Yeah, it's just in order of, it's a procedural, yeah.
Just asking.
Then we didn't get all of the resolutions that we're going to need to vote on. Give me 1 second, because I got to go back to the packet on the.
You got $1,015,000.
Right.
Yeah, we have the bonding resolution, which F&B introduces. But I still don't have the full accounting of it yet, because there was some additions made, and we're sort of figuring this out on our own, which shouldn't be the case. Board of Finance.
Are you looking at? No, well, no. The other is capital improvement. The other is the sidewalk.
No, wait, I'll be right there, Seth. Give me a second. I just up their packet.
Mark, see the message I sent? Ann is joined for attendance.
Thank you.
I
So
am.
we have the two. All right. We need to check. I don't think we need to do anything on this, but the Board of Finance transferred $400,000 out of their reserve account to pay for paving. Since it was part of their contingency, I don't think that the RTM needs to approve it. And then there's more than one bonding, which I found a little bit confusing, but
Jack, it's
we have the...
1 second. Will you include that information when you're giving your talk? That 400.
Yes. What this year is, we changed how we appropriated, how we explained the budget last year, and we're going to continue to do that again this year. And part of that is we're comparing what was requested in the prior budget to what was requested this year. Because, if the Board of Finance is using contingency general funds bonding, it doesn't give an accurate reflection of what was requested, which is what is controlled by the three boards. And then the Board of Finance determines how it's paid. So we will reconcile what was requested, and then we're going to have to reconcile what was amended by the Board of Finance this year. And we'll do that quickly. And then we'll come out to a comparison of that to the prior year. And part of this is how we're paying for things. There's three areas that will be discussed in general, and one is the town had $1.6 million simply because even at the same mill rate of what we had, it's $1.6 million of extra funds we get because the grand list went up by 1%. All right? Then we paid down $1.8 million of bonds in December using general fund extra balances. That would have been due in next year in fiscal 21. And so since we did an early retirement, that also saved $1.8 million off this budget. So we started with $3.4 million off the budget to begin with. And then that the Board of Finance, prior to us not meeting in December, where they used $233,000 to buy the police HVAC in the system, was sitting with $1.2 million in their capital fund contingency account, and that's not counting all the other contingency accounts they have there, just the ones that they call their contingency. And so they're using
That's been
400,000 of that
Jack, so
to pay that, and I'll explain that.
yeah, but we don't have to, the RTM doesn't have to vote on that, right? Because we already voted those numbers at some time in the past. Or do we have?
I don't think we need to vote on the 400 because it's their money, but we need to know where the money's coming from.
But you're going to discuss that in your report.
That's correct.
Okay.
So everybody has the same.
What's the next one we got to put on the agenda to vote on?
Next one we have to put on the agenda is a resolution for appropriating $503,000 for sidewalk repair and replacement.
Okay, got
So that F&B would be the introduction because it's bonding, and I would probably suggest that Works and Public Health and Safety are reporting on that as well.
I agree. Public health and safety and public works.
Okay.
Yep. Then there's the other bonding of, and I just got to prove out this number because it changed, because there was some additions, and I don't know if I have the right amount. Because we added 150,000, the Board of Finance added 150,000, but there's $1 million bonding resolution we will introduce, and it deals with the Norotan Heights conversion natural gas, the construction of the tennis courts, installation of some sidewalk, and replacement of windows in the gym. Just got to make sure that's everything that's in there. You know, I think it is.
That's
And so-
$1,015,000 for various capital improvement projects.
Yeah, but again, I'm trying to prove out to their final numbers, which they haven't given.
But trust me, I tried to figure this thing out. Yeah, right.
So, obviously, public health and safety is on the conversion to the Norotan Fire Department. Tennis courts, and they can address it when they're talking about capital and just saying we're bonding it, their choice.
Yeah, and just
Tennis courts is education.
right. That's the tennis courts at the high school, not Parks and Rec.
Yes. That's correct. Park and Rec isn't doing a tennis court installation.
But this is all like fund resolution, though, Jack.
Yes.
And F&B
This is
primary
all
or no?
bond.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
F&B primary?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we have the replacement of an additional 350 feet new sidewalk on West Avenue. And what was explained by Ed was that if we're putting in new, it has to be separate from the 500,000 replacement. They're different bonds. And so that should probably be Public Works. I think it's around Town Hall anyway. And F&B will deal with the replacement of the windows at the gymnasium because it doesn't go to any committee respectively. It could also go to Public Works because Ed's doing it. Yeah, we can give it to Public Works.
Jack, is that at Town Hall, those windows?
Yeah. Windows,
Yeah.
The
But
windows are at
since Ed's
Town
doing
Hall.
it, Public Works.
The windows are at Town
Yeah.
Hall, but Jack, why do you think the sidewalks are by Town Hall and not on Norotan Avenue? I just want to double check that.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe it is on West Avenue. It's saying on West Avenue. I may be mistaken on that. But the
West
difference is
of the
it's
road.
new. It's, yeah.
New
I think
construction.
it's because
That's
it's
new construction.
new
So
sidewalks.
I would recommend, this is Patty, I would recommend obviously, Public Works, but also Public Health and Safety as maybe a secondary as well. Because those are the sidewalks that
Yeah.
lead up to the school, hence one of the reasons they're being so careful about adding them in around all the construction, because there's like 5 projects going on in that one area from west to over by 95 along the Roten Avenue. So it's just my suggestion, but I think we should include public health and safety along with public works and F&B.
Now,
Yeah.
looking at this, the way that they have this resolution written now, it's one resolution with all of these pieces in it. Are there pieces of this that have to be broken out separately?
No, I think that what can happen is, and it's up to each committee, I think that we can talk about this in capital, and then just mention that's going to be part of the bonding resolution. So when we're talking about capital, you can talk about all of the capital projects and just mention that it's bonding.
That's how we did it last year.
Yeah,
All right. Now,
I think it makes a lot more sense.
Then what we would do is tell the different committees to address the area under their concern. F&B would off, describe what it's all about, and then we'd have the rest of them, PH&S, Ed, Public Works, as secondary, and they would just come up and address that part of it that pertains to them. Is that what we're thinking here?
Well, I was actually thinking that if we dealt with it in Section A, where the capital was, and just say that we'll be dealing with it, I'm going to make up a number, with 20-21, we'll be dealing with the bonding of that, then we don't have people having to, a litany of people talking about this is bonding. Nobody's going to object to what we're bonding here.
Right. All right. And that,
So address it just once in capital.
Yep.
but now are we thinking that we'll have other committees reporting out on their piece, or it's just an F&B saying, look, we're going to bond, these are the projects?
Just F&B.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then that does it, right?
It should do it for the various items on the budget. It appears, and this is up for discussion, one of those how many angels sit on a head of a needle. Yeah. There was another bonding for $302,000 for the HVAC system, but the Board of Ed did not vote to reduce this, but based upon some conversations, the Board of Finance, when they made their decision, and who said what to whom I'm not getting into, the HVAC for homeschool was removed from the budget, and it's bonding. So I might suspect that in September we see this coming back to us.
All right.
There seems to have been a mix-up on this one.
Okay.
Jack, is that replacement of air conditioning or is that new air conditioning? I just don't remember that.
I think it's a whole new system for home school. So this is just the appropriation for the design of the project. The project's expensive.
For the design of the HVAC project. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is $302,000 simply for the system design, not even the implementation.
Okay, so, but that's...
So that's not before us now, but I
Right.
expect
Okay.
we'll see it in September.
All right.
So is that it for this upcoming meeting? Let me just recite what I got here, Seth. I can pick it up after the.
I was going to recite it back to you, but better that you recite it back to us since you're keeping the minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm going to skip A through E since we went over that earlier. So let's see. I'll pick it up with the special appropriation approved. Let's see. I've got the Well, I'm going to pick up the special appropriation for the 216,000 primary F&B. Then we got the resolution, and I have it quoted verbatim, for $30 million to refund certain blah, 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 primary F&B.
Right.
Got the bonding of annual sidewalk, I call it renovation. I don't have a
Yep.
primary F&B, secondary PH&S, and PW.
Yep.
Bonding resolution involving, among other things, the town hall gymnasium windows, Roten Heights gas line, Heights station, I guess. Second. What am I missing? Got primary F&B, secondary PH&S, education, public works. I'm missing something in there.
I think we just agreed that F&B was going to cover
We
it
just said F&B. Because it was a group, it was 4 items, so didn't we say just F&B would report on that?
Right.
Is that what we said? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know we talked about PH&S education, PW, but they're not secondary. Okay.
Right.
I'm reading
Quick
it.
question, Mark. Did you mention the 503 for the? You did mention that, right? For the sidewalks.
Yes.
I didn't have the
Okay.
number, but that's what I didn't have, so I'll put the 503.
Okay. Fine. All right.
Okay.
Mark,
And then I got the,
it's Lois, just to make sure the special appropriation of the 217K goes before all that budget stuff, right?
Well,
well, we haven't set the
I
agenda,
was
we're
going
just
to go back
listing
to that
primary.
special appropriation. You want to run that as ahead of it as an item, and then go into the budget, the rest of the budget?
We
Okay,
can do it at the end. I don't think anybody's going to object. I'm just mentioning.
Oh, okay. So we change the order. Go through start with A through G, and then come into the special appropriation. Is that what we're thinking?
Yes, that's where I would do it. Yes.
Okay, good.
And then we can go through all the bondings.
Okay.
Right, so then there's one more bonding. Well, I've got sidewalks twice, because I just talked about the 503. Did we come back and talk about the sidewalks again after the bonding resolution for the gym?
Yeah. What happens is that there's
Okay.
75,000 in sidewalks in the larger bonding resolution, but that's for new sidewalks, and
That's
so
right.
they have to be dealt with separately.
Okay, so the new sidewalk is 502. Is that the number for the new?
No,
So
new
503 for
sidewalks is in the new sidewalks is in the 1 million number. The 503 is replacement.
One is
repair.
Got it.
503 is replacement.
I got you. So the $1 million includes the windows and the gas line, correct? Or am I missing
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
The resolution. It's in there. I got it. Okay.
Windows, gas line, whatever else. Yes.
And are you saying the
Tennis
sidewalks?
courts.
Are you saying we have to do
And it's
that?
for its conversion of fire department natural gas. Installation of 350
Yep.
feet of sidewalk on West Avenue, replacement of windows. That's all in.
I got it.
And that's all just F&B?
Yeah. But talk about it at the beginning under capital projects.
Yes, under A.
All right.
So that the only thing F&B is really talking about is what the cost, the amount is, what the cost is over a
Right.
20-year life, and how we're paying for things.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, so can I have a motion to sign the committees as we just outlined?
I'll make a motion, Patty.
Patty,
Second.
second. Mike, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I can see
Aye.
the hands are, oh, somebody has really clean hands. That's very good. Good. Terrific. I see, noes, please. I see no, it's unanimous. Okay. Next, amendment to Appendix B, Part 3 of Darien's Code of Ordinances. Can I start on that? I guess that would be if you're going to I don't know, you had a question, Jack. Did you want to raise a question on this?
Well, I think that some excellent work has been done by TGSNA. However, Frank and I had a conversation, and Frank split the two. There's two parts to really this resolution. The first part is changing the flexibility of dates, which is within 10 days of what it says. And I don't think there's any problem from my perspective on that part. There is, though, a significant objection to changing the state of the town from December to January.
Says who, Jack? Is that your opinion, or is that, I'm just trying to gather where you're getting the objection, because a lot of people were in support of that. So I'm just trying.
I'd like you to list them because I don't think they are. I also want to have the logic for number one. This wasn't voted on by any board. So how it ended up on our table without authorization from rules or discussion in detail by rules is surprising to me. That's how we ended up with the same seating our authority. But number two, it just doesn't make any sense. The concept of having 6 months after the end of the year and 1 month after the elections and having a new RTM there is to discuss not only what transpired in the last year, but a little bit of direction of what's going forward. Moving it to January, where the Board of Finance, the Board of Education will already have presented their budget and what they're doing in the next year, and the Board of Selectmen will be doing the same, makes that meeting or that discussion by these four groups meaningless and a waste of our time. Because what transpired and where the direction is will happen in the first week of January for the Board of Ed, and approximately the week before we're having our RTM meeting in January from the Board of Selectmen. In addition, the comment that I heard that if it's a new leader or a new board member taking over, that they only have a month to be brought up to speed is, in my opinion, ludicrous. Because with the exception of a new first selectman, every other board member that's elected chair has been sitting on that board for some time, and so they're fully aware of what needs to go on and what they've been working on for the last year, as well as the direction of what's going on. And even on the Board of Selectmen, if you look at the history, we've had long periods of time where somebody moves, as Jamie did, from being on the Board of Selectmen to the first selectman. So that argument just doesn't hold water. It sets in motion what people are hearing, especially for a newly impaneled RTM meeting. And otherwise, there's no business that's going on in December. And therefore, it's as if we just impaneled and we're not doing anything in December. This is the tone center for what the work that we're going to be doing in the budget for the next year. Moving it to after the budgets are there, why are you wasting my time?
I think those
And
are.
the public will already know that because it will already be in the newspapers as well. So it just hasn't been authorized by the RTM brought to our attention, and it just doesn't make logical sense for people that are working on this stuff.
Okay, I think that's a good point.
Patty.
Yeah. Pardon me?
Yes, you.
No, I was just saying those are good points.
Okay, Frank?
Frank, you're muted.
Frank, you got to turn your mic on.
Frank, you're muted. Frank, you're muted.
Do you have the power, Mike, to unmute him?
I'll text him.
He's on a different. Frank, you're muted.
I just messaged him.
I just texted him too.
Yeah, he's not looking down though.
He's looking like.
Seth, what do you think? Or anybody else?
I'll jump in. Shall I?
I don't have a horse in this thing. It was brought up at the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee did give it to Frank to say, well, okay, Frank, look into it. But I don't have a feeling about it. I think what I listened to what Jack had to say. It is true that the State of the Town meeting sets the tone. It's a kickoff meeting. And so I like it from that standpoint. You're getting all the key players up on the platform to talk about where the town's going and what's happened. I like the timing, and it's true that when January starts, Board of Ed goes in full bore on putting their budget and everything together. So, I like the idea of the background on it. 1 second here. Let me see if I can raise Frank. Frank, 1 second here.
Adele, were you saying something?
I was just going to say, I'll jump in because I asked Frank earlier today, how long have we been doing like this? Because I was wondering, why change? What has changed that we would make the change? I think it always, if you were brand new on that job, it would have. I see Mike's sign. Okay, I think it always would have been difficult, no matter what. So I'm not sure anything's new here. And I asked Frank how long we've been doing it like this, and he went back and looked, and he looked in a couple different ways, at least 9 or 10 years, 11 years maybe, that this is the way it's been, and maybe even a lot longer than that. And so there's nothing changed here, and I'm not sure there's a reason for changing.
Frank, unmute your mic.
Pointed out.
Everything you said we didn't get because you got to press the microphone down in the lower part of your screen and make it green.
Yay!
Hey.
Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Like weird, Frank. Weird.
I checked with the 4 elected officials that normally speak at these meetings, and 3 of the 4 said that they were in favor of the change. I would also say this concept, moving it to January, has been around for a while, and we sort of kicked the can down the road. As such, when this was suggested by Kate Bush and Jamie, that we look into this matter and that we couple the 2 issues together. One is giving the flexibility to the moderator for the scheduling of the meeting, and 2, this topic, they were bolted together. So, while much of what Jack is saying is true, I believe that the Board of Selectmen budget doesn't come out for discussion until the end of January, and so much
That's all you meet.
of education budget, which we are talking about 3 or 4 weeks of dead time between the State of the Town address and Christmas vacation, and after Christmas vacation, so I don't have a dog in this fight. I just merely drafted what I was requested to draft, and here we have it on the table, the 2 bolted together. If Rules Committee decides now to kill the whole thing, well, so be it. If they decide to go forward with it, then the RTM will decide. If we feel alternatively that there are 2 issues and the 2 issues ought to be voted on separately, Well, we can do that too. I have forwarded you the drafts that Wayne prepared for us, so that we go both, which is the thing that's been on the table now for the last couple of weeks, or separate, and let the RTM decide one or the other, or we can decide tonight not to go forward on a contentious matter. But again, I will say that 3 of the 4 speakers are in favor of this.
I bet they did.
They didn't say they were in favor of it. They said they did not object to it. There's a difference.
Anybody? Yes, Teresa.
Frank, could you tell us which which person was against it?
Sorry, it's a question to me?
Yeah. who was against it?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Which person of the 4 people who was against changing the date of the meeting?
I don't know whether I want to discuss that at the moment. They were informal comments delivered from an informal question. So, I respect their confidence.
Yeah, Lois?
I just want to, when you talk about January, it sounds feasible. But the problem is our meeting is at the end of January. If the meeting was at the beginning of January, I think it would all work. But by the end of January, everybody's well into the budgets and other kinds of things. So I think we missed the concept of setting the stage. And if our choice is December 7th or 10th or something and January 26th, I think I tend to leave it to go earlier. And I don't know that we want to set up 2 meetings in January. I don't know that we can turn the schedule around that much to have the introductory beginning of January. I mean, we could have the beginning meeting early in January, and then the next meeting would be in the middle of February. That's really moving things. I'm sure we want to go there.
Okay, Ann, did you have?
I was just going to say, procedurally, I'm new on rules, but procedurally, when something comes to rules, isn't it supposed to be voted on by the board or brought up by Seth specifically?
Yeah,
Could you repeat that?
Go ahead, Adele.
Could you repeat that? I couldn't quite hear what she said. Ann.
Sorry. Well, I'm new on rules, but my understanding is that if something like this is brought on the agenda rules, it's supposed to have been voted on by some board, or Seth himself brings it up.
This one came out of discussion with the rules. We were talking, as I recall, and you guys can correct me, but as I recall, we had, in a meeting, we were talking about improvements, changes that we might make to our procedures, and this came up. And so we gave it
You had said someone, I believe you had said it came from the Board of Selectmen to discuss. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. But
let's be very clear.
We didn't come up with it on our own.
I didn't was discussed a while ago by the selectmen in the operations meeting. Perhaps Seth remembers that. I don't know how many months ago it was. And then it was suggested by the town administrator and the first selectman that we take this under our consideration.
All right, but wait. Can I just get in here now? There's 2 things here. I fully agree that rules authorized Frank to go and look at the flexibility of the meeting that came about because of the holiday, the conflict with the Jewish holiday.
Right.
So that was what the charge was. When we're having something coming from the town administrator and the first select woman, and their board hasn't voted on it, all right, then that wasn't presented to us. And that's a different situation. This add-on that wasn't discussed at rules. I would have said this right at that meeting at rules, that there's no reason to do this.
Just to refresh our memory, Jack.
I think we did.
April 13th, where we had it as a candidate for the April 27th RTM meeting. And then I suggested at that time, and we voted on whether to put it on the 27th out of the interest of time. Well, we thought that meeting would go long and this would be just another burden to be handled. It turns out we were wrong. The meeting went very smoothly and we could have put it on there. But this whole resolution was available and was considered by us on April 13th. There are no surprises here. This thing has been knocking around for quite a while.
With all due respect, the fact of the matter is the question wasn't whether or not it was in your April 13th meeting, all right, or in that resolution. I will tell you that from March until that meeting, myself and my committee were otherwise preoccupied with a seating of an authority that was going on, as well as that we had two budgets going on. My point is that it was never brought to rules at the time of the flexibility issue of changing the state of the town, that at least I recall. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'm old. I can't forget things.
You're pardon me for not having all of it back about 4 months ago when this thing came on the table. But at any rate, so my friends, are you ready to come to a conclusion on this part of it? Do you want to put it on the agenda of the RTM or not? I'll take.
Well, I'd like to.
I
make a motion to split the two.
I'm sorry, Jack.
I said I will make a motion to split the two parts of this resolution.
Okay.
Seth is actually asking if we should even have the second portion on.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I think we have to split it first to vote on that.
Yeah. All right. So,
wait, I don't understand
that. I have a motion. Do I have a second to split?
Wait, Seth, can I ask a question first before we vote?
Lois,
we're not
you can ask a question afterwards.
No, I want to ask before we vote to split.
It's on the table for discussion because it's been moved and seconded. So,
Exactly.
Patty, you're on.
Okay, I'm confused about what just happened, but what I was saying was I was just trying to clarify something. I understand the talk about splitting it if it's going to the vote at the RTM, but what I'm trying to clarify was, Seth, were you saying that rules could actually just pull it, the second one, from the agenda? Could you please confirm either way?
We're setting the agenda for the RTM now, so we can do as we please as far as setting the agenda. The agenda for the RTM has not been set yet.
Yeah,
Patty,
we're voting on what do you want on the agenda, and the one that's we're splitting just for now. We're splitting it into two pieces, so that presumably then we could vote on which piece you want to put on the agenda, if either.
For us vote. Okay, got it. Thank you.
That help? Okay, yes, discussion please on splitting. Ready to vote? All in favor of splitting? Okay. Good. Opposed? I don't see any. Okay, so it's unanimous to split. Okay, now, do I have a motion on, let's say, whether or not you want to put the moving of the date, the state of the town date?
Why don't we do the flexibility first?
It's the easy one.
All right. I'm flexible. Give me then a motion in favor of putting the flexibility of the moderator on the agenda of the RTM.
I'll move it.
Have a move.
Second.
From Michael. Okay. Ready to vote?
Who was second on that? Hang on. Who was second on that?
Excuse me.
Mike Wheeler.
Mike seconder.
Will you repeat the motion that was now on the floor?
Yes, that is now on the floor is to split the amendment of Appendix B into two pieces. One, which we did. One piece is moving the date, The other piece is the flexibility of the moderator to change the dates, 10 days on either side. Okay?
And what we're voting on now
And now, we voted to split
moving the
it.
dates.
Now we're moving to take one of the arms of the split, which is, Jack suggested that he'd like to see us vote first on the flexibility of the moderator to move the date 10 days. He'd like to put that on the table first, and I was asking for a motion to do that.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion on the flexibility of the moderator? Put that on the agenda. Lois, and a second?
Patty?
Patty? Okay. Ready to vote? All in favor, please?
Aye.
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 Aye. Shannon, where are you? Is that, yeah, there's your hand. Okay, opposed, please?
Aye.
I don't see any. And no abstention. It's unanimous. Okay, so so we put the flexibility of the moderator on. Now we vote on moving the date of the state of the town. Do we want to do anything at all? We don't have to do anything. You don't have to vote. You don't have to do anything. You can just leave it.
Can I ask a question?
Monica.
Okay, so Jack, you said that the chairs were not for this, but this resolution says this is being done to better accommodate the needs of the town and the elected officials. So I'm really confused. Do the elected officials want this or not?
First of all, Monica, I will say that not a single board discussed this or voted on it, of any of the four. So there's no authorization from any of the boards to move it forward. Number two, with all due respect to our boards, which I have a high level of regard to, all of the board chairs have a full understanding of what's going on in their board. And even if there's a new board chair, that person has, in all cases, with the possible exception of a first selectman, been somebody who's been on the board. So they have a full understanding of what goes on. So there's no reason to do this other than somebody suggested it from the office of the first selectman.
Okay, so you have...
That's it, basically.
If you want, you can simply take no action on this thing, and that would automatically leave it off the agenda. Or you can vote not to put it on the agenda, whichever way you'd like. If I have a motion to put it on the agenda, I would take it. If not, okay, there's no motion in favor. The rules will take no action on this. All right. So now...
Beth, I have another motion to make.
Another motion from... Okay, Jack.
I want to give some input on this, and then it took me a long time to figure out the right verbiage for this. But I understand we're under unusual times, and had this not been for the unusual times, this would have been a very easy budget to go and present. However, all the boards have adopted something, which I think we should be doing for the 8th as well. And that is, and also I'll let you know that while I was able to, as F&B, go out and make a motion, provide certain information prior to the meetings, F&B and RTM Education were excluded from any discussions at the Board of Finance. We were also excluded from any discussions at the Board of Ed, including public comment. We were also excluded from any public comment without sending in information prior to the meeting from the Board of Select.
Jack, could you go ahead and give us a motion? Well, all right, you want to your motion.
That's what I'm doing now.
All right.
So the motion is consistent with the precedent of other boards. Only members of the Darien Representative Town Meeting will be speaking during the June 8th budget meeting. All comments must be submitted to the moderator no later than 6:30 on June 8th, 2020. That is what has been done for every board meeting that has been going on.
Okay, so you want to move that? You want to move that, correct?
All comments can be sent prior to the meeting, but I want to remind everyone that in the last 2 years, the budgets have been now handed to the RTM. The RTM committees are responsible for reporting on the budget. For the last 2 years, nobody has done a prelude to the budget. Jamie and Tara and John haven't spoken. We have the answers. The RTM committees have the answers to what we've reviewed on this budget. And therefore, it's just consistent. Anybody can make public comment. The elected officials can make comment and submit it to us. But the only people that will be speaking, similar to what has transpired at these other meetings, where the RTM has been excluded, are the RTM on the meeting of the 8th. We've been excluded.
Does this motion have a second?
Can I ask a question? Can you just reconfirm something? Because I was walking from outside inside. It got cool.
Sure.
Did you say that consistently over the last number of years, no one else usually speaks at the budget meeting except
For
RTM?
the last 2 years, we have neither Jamie nor Tara spoke to start the meeting after the budget was introduced. The reason is...
Did Jay-Z ever speak? I'm just asking.
Years ago.
But not in the last 2 years?
No.
The board chairs have not in recent years because we were allowing the committees were introducing the budget from an RTM standpoint, and
It's been handed off to us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So do I have a second for this motion? Okay, I have a second from Teresa. All right, now, debate, questions.
I have a question.
Yes, Monica.
So, Jack, I didn't follow the Board of Ed meeting, but I did follow the Board of Finance meeting, and they reviewed, I think you had 7 questions, and they reviewed them at that meeting.
No, they didn't. Let me answer that question. I was required. I sent an email to John Zabrowski earlier. He asked me to consolidate certain items. I was not given an opportunity to present at that meeting. He did not read the full comments that were made. He only he edited what I wrote to him. I was not able to discuss the points that were being made there. And, you know, I mentioned to Seth, because I don't even know that Seth knew, but we reported based upon the F&B meeting that there were 3 resolutions sort of passed on the sense of the meeting. One was that 16 out of 17 members objected to the methodology that was being used by the Board of Finance. That was never mentioned. We also agreed with getting to a 0 flat rate and wanted to be beyond that, to closer to a 0 expense. That wasn't mentioned. And then on the non-lapsing account, there was a split vote with several in favor, 2 against and 1 abstention. And out of the 2 against and the abstention, 2 of those folks are at this meeting right now.
Okay. Okay.
So that wasn't ever provided, and when people were making comments, we weren't able to respond. And so certain comments were made that just weren't accurate.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Jack, I have a question for Jack.
Frank. Yeah, Frank.
What is the reading from corporate counsel on the legality of this approach?
Since they've already done it at every board meeting.
Excuse me, Jack. Excuse me. I have the floor.
All right.
We could do this, but as a practical matter, I don't believe that it sends the right kind of message. We've always been very open in our meetings, and we've been open for discussion. Yes, you could do it. I am not sure what happens. For example, if someone stands up and wants to cut money off the Board of Ed budget, could happen. I'm just saying worst case. Now, what does the Board of Ed do if they're not allowed to speak? I don't know how that works exactly. I think that Jack's comments and concerns are clear things that the F&B committee can put in their report and put for the RTM. That's perfectly straightforward. When you are going to restrict a board whose budget is up on the table to be approved, I think that's a step too far. I would want to hear what they had to say. I think if they had something to say. Now, it's hard to give you an example where this would be an issue, other than I just thought of one, which is when he steps up and wants to cut money. And
I have a question for you.
1 second, Jack. Go ahead.
Where were you when we were being excluded, objecting to what these boards were doing to your RTM legislative body?
I am not going to
You didn't object to that.
Look, Jack, I'm not objecting. I'm asking questions because I'm going to be sitting up there and questions that are critical, very important to passing the budget. I think that people have to be able, board members should have to be able to speak on it. If something, I don't know, I can't predict what it would be. Lois.
I have a question at the Board of Finance meeting. Were the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen able to speak and answer questions to the Board of Finance?
Yes. Not at all their meetings. The answer is no.
Last one, yes.
Last one,
There
yes.
was a meeting.
Only the last one.
And afterwards,
But by that
where
time, decisions had been
they
made.
invited both Jamie
1 second, Patty, you've got the floor. You're answering.
and Dr. Adler. That was the final meeting.
Start over what you were saying, please. Patty, I didn't hear you.
Oh, on the Monday night, there was a meeting scheduled by the Board of Finance by John Zagrowski, where he, prior to the final budget meeting where they voted and were setting the mill rate, where he included Tara Achman, he included Dr. Adley, and he included Jamie Stevenson. They were all there physically, and then everyone else on the Board of Ed, and probably the Board of Selectmen had called in as well.
But were they?
Can I add some clarification here? There was a special request that had to be made. They were being excluded. They were not able to have any conversations.
I'll get you guys.
And this is also dealing with the fact that your RTM, Patty, your RTM was not allowed to participate in any of those meetings and ask questions or provide information. So to say that they were inclusive is an inaccurate answer, and I know specifically that a special request had to be made to have any participation there. So,
Can I say
and
one
again,
thing?
the RTM was not allowed to participate
May I
at
say-
all in any of
Okay,
this.
Shannon, I'll get you, Teresa. I see.
This isn't, thank you. This isn't just the RTM, to Jack's point, and Jack, thank you for bringing this up. At one point during the process, Jamie was invited to speak with the Board of Finance, but Tara wasn't. So there's just, the hands are not even. There's not collaboration as there should be across all boards, across the RTM. We are better than this, and Jack's point, I support it because it makes the point that we are partners in this, or nothing is going to get done for the good of this town that should get done.
Okay, yes, go ahead, Teresa.
I'm going to have to agree with Jack and Shannon. I have been following this process throughout this entire pandemic, and I feel like the Board of Finance has been acting on their own and not inviting other board chairs or just inviting Jamie Stevenson. And then even more disturbing was when John Zaglotsky actually started his meeting by being a little condescending to members of the public who wrote in favor of the Board of Ed budget. I think public comment is part of the process, and nobody should ever be criticized for what they write or send in as part of public comment. None of, by the way, which we have privy to say in this pandemic. So I agree with Jack and Shannon on this one.
Okay, Monica, did you have one?
Yeah, Jack, I'm just trying to figure out at the end of this meeting, what do you think this will accomplish?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I do believe that the various RTM committees have done their jobs, and they're capable of explaining certain things. There are whole sections that F&B raised, and in fact, I'll let you know that F&B came to a deeper reduction in the cut than I believe the Board of Finance did initially. And yet there were no cuts to either the Board of Education or the Board of Selectmen operating budgets. They totally dismissed the whole section. So, number one, I think that this is partly what Teresa just said, is that they have to understand that if this is going to work, we have to be inclusive in all parts. And while I understand that the virtual meetings has created some unusual circumstances, the fact of the matter is that that's number one. Number two, I think that the RTM is more than capable of handling their business. When we're going and doing this budget, and I'm anticipating most of this will go through rather smoothly, we don't need to ask permission of the other boards of what our actions are. This is now our job. And one of the big things that came out of the request from one of the boards for us to cede the power, and make no mistake about it, there was somebody who was pushing it, is the fact that it is both the RTM and the Board of Finance that's the budget-making authority in towns that have both. And as such, we're executing at this point our budget-making authority, and we don't need to ask permission of these boards. They have discussed this in length. We have provided our information. There is nothing that will be coming up as a surprise. I don't perceive that the education budget is being cut any more than the $1 million they've already taken out. And it should be noted that, several board members have actually said, when John said, trust us, that they wouldn't support coming back, as John said. So I think that the boards now have to trust the RTM.
Okay, Ann, you had one?
I was just going to say, yeah, I support what he's saying.
Anybody else?
I guess.
Yes.
Well, I think, I don't think I disagree with how it would work. I disagree with doing it out of anger and frustration. Okay?
I'm not doing it out of anger and frustration. I'm not. Honestly not.
Okay. But my sense of, we're not asking them for permission for anything. I mean, my sense of, if the Board of Selectmen has a representative there and the Board of Education has a representative there, the purpose of them being there, if there are some things that come up that we want to ask questions of them. That would be my only reason for having them there, is to help us make any decisions we need. Not to have them, and it's not, I don't think it's their intention to lobby or push or do whatever. I mean, if somebody raised a question on changing the money or something like that, we might want to hear from them. And as you have explained, Jack, that hasn't come up in years. So I just want to, if we choose to do it, let's do it from a standpoint of a positive standpoint in how we're operating, not saying, well, you didn't let me speak, so therefore I'm not going to let you speak. I don't think that supports
I'm sorry if it comes out that way, Lois. It's not, but I think at this stage of the game, we have established certain understanding of what's going on in this budget from various perspectives. And I think it's now the RTM's time to opine on the budget. And, it just moves forward as we are part of this budget-making authority. And I think that it does, in certain ways, not out of anger, but out of a legislative, let's work together in a coordinated basis, say that, you really shouldn't, if you want inclusion here, you should be including us there. And I will say, before this pandemic, I have no complaints of how Jamie has always included F&B, or even John Zagroski has included F&B. But under this circumstances, things changed. And I don't know how much of it has to do with certain people wanting us to cede our power, and then when they didn't get it passed by the governor, chose to do it in committee.
I want to understand here. I have the floor just for a second. First of all, Jack, how many months have you been working with the Board of Finance and the Board of Education and all of these people with your committee? You've got two subcommittees, one that does education, one that does selectmen's budget. So they've been working for a long time, relatively speaking, on these budgets, right?
Yes, up until recently, because I will let you know, while we have, what was called the buddy system, nobody from the Board of Finance contacted either Clara or my two vice chairs or myself to discuss the education budget. In addition, when the working group went to identify what is now called Paul's list, although that's an unfair listing for it because Paul only had two things on it, and both of them are reasonable of what he had put on.
Okay, but
nobody from F&B or education was contacted. So
Jack,
we didn't work with them.
You didn't write letters to them, right, Jack?
We have not been working with them.
And they have acknowledged them, right?
Mike, what's that, Mike?
I just want to understand. Okay, so there has been some collaboration. When we have this meeting, if someone, I'm trying to understand how this is going to work, if it was to work, but if somebody gets up and goes after a budget for whatever reason, do I anticipate it? No, and neither do you. But hey, stranger things happen. How do the boards respond? Because it's their budget on the line.
Not really. It's a town budget. It's our budget. It's not theirs anymore. The Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen, in practice and in theory and in reality, handed their budgets over to the Board of Finance. Hence, the budget that we are getting now is the Board of Finance's budget to the RTM. They are, by charter, F&B is the liaison by charter to the from the Board of Finance into the RTM. It is now our budget. It's no longer their budget. It's ours. And it's really, it is, Beth, I'm giving you what the reality is on here.
Who have to justify it, Jack. They're the ones who have to discuss it. And the idea that the RTM might vote something that they had a question about, they would not have the opportunity to discuss it, and it would be something new. It wouldn't be something that, because we've been having public hearings, dialogues on these budgets for months, okay? So if something comes out on the floor now, it's going to be something that would be a surprise. And the question,
No, it wouldn't.
If that's
That's an incorrect, again, that's an incorrect statement. What I will do, and Mark has a copy of it, I will pass, not saying that anything's coming out, but there's nothing that will be coming out on the floor of the RTM that would not have already been communicated to the boards and the Board of Finance. I sent an email to the Board of Finance. I then sent it to both me and Tara, and on the Jamie side also, I believe, sent it to Kate and Jen. And there were 2 memorandums that went out prior to meetings because we weren't able to speak on that. As I said, John asked me about an hour to 40 minutes before one of the meetings to give him a special sheet. I did. That was the one that Palin said he got during the meeting. I sent it to John at the meeting at his request. So, but it didn't allow us to present the area. It didn't allow the discussion on certain areas in the budget. And I'm not here to challenge how they did their budget and whether or not there's different allocation methods and other things like that. But it's not their budget anymore. They voted. They're handing the budget off to us. It's now our budget.
Okay, so at this point, Mark, we have.
Seth Frank has a question.
My battery on the damn phone is down, but I'm going to phone in. Will you allow me to join the meeting on the phone momentarily?
Sure.
Thank you.
Anyway, and can you hear us okay, Frank?
I think he's calling back in.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going back in. Let's wait for Frank to reassert itself.
Yeah, all right.
Can I say something then while we're waiting?
Sure, Pat.
Frank won't hear it.
Well, I'll say it to the rest of you, and I'll say it to Jack. I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're talking about overall. I do just want to give a clarification so you understand where I stand. I didn't love what happened with the whole potentially seating the RTM vote. You know, you and I had talked a long time ago. I was sending you articles about Greenwich and things like that. And so that to me is a whole separate issue. But I understand your feeling about that. I understand other people's feelings as well. And that irritated me afterwards. I just do want to say, I don't want you to think that I was advocating for the Board of Finance or advocating for John Z, because I don't really even know him. But I will say that I do think that we're in a different time with this whole virus. And every other year, we've all been able to attend the Board of Finance meetings. I mean, I'm not on F&B with you, but I attended many of those meetings on behalf of Public Works, the committees I was on. So, and I do know, someone in particular who did push for that meeting on Monday to make sure that Tara was included and that Jamie was included and Dr. Adley was included. So at least that did happen. And, I'm sure they wish they could have had that regular meeting and everybody else involved. The one other thing I will say is I know you're talking about education, but the F&B buddies, and Adele can attest to this because she was on that conference call, they did have their buddy meetings with their 2 F&B buddies. So it was Parks and Rec, it was Public Works, and it was Public Health and Safety. And I see that there are at least 2 people from your F&B committee now that are on this rules Zoom committee that were also on that. So there are at least 2 members of that F&B committee that you're talking about that actually were very proactive in setting up a meeting with multiple people from the F&B committees and the chairs of those committees we just talked about. So anyways, I'm just filling in the blank for background as well.
Well, Patty, nobody's denying that in certain cases conversations went on, but I will tell you that it's my understanding that there's been not started by me, but comments made to me by F&B members, some follow-up meetings that have occurred. My sense is that certain people felt that what was being discussed in those meetings weren't being brought forward. Matt Patrick also participated in the same meeting with Adele and Cheryl Russell. And, that's what we're trying to do in moving those things forward. It's just that, having those conversations and then moving it forward, there was discussion of certain capital items that were just never discussed at the Board of Finance level that emulated out of those meetings. So while we're trying to make this work, I do think, and it's not out of anger, I think that, people have made their choices. And, one thing that I've taught my kids is you have the right to make any choice you want. However, you don't have the right to determine how people react to your choices. So,
sure, agreed. But I don't understand if you're talking about...
And this is part of that. And so...
want, Tara to be able to speak at the meeting.
Because she hasn't had to, and it's not her budget, Patty. They gave up their budget to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance is giving it to us.
Hey, Jack, one at a time, please. Pat.
Yeah, I just meant to be able to respond to a question to what, Seth was saying, if there's a motion from the floor where something's going to get cut, and then some of us from the RTM get up and ask a qualifying question to have, say, somebody like Tara get up to be able to answer it. That's all I was trying to go back to what you were talking about.
Why don't we go to the other side?
So,
let me check to see.
I just want to share.
Let me see, Frank, are you caller number 1? Are you on? Frank Kemp?
Yes, I'm back on.
Frank Kemp is caller number 1.
Good. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Seth, I'm very uncomfortable with this discussion we're having. I understand that there's some grievances with the lack of coordination or communication in this year's budget, but I'm aware of some of that as well. However, the 15 years I've been on the RTM, I've always found it to be, most of the boards and committees to be an open forum with open communication. And certainly this body, the RTM, has always been a forum for open dialogue. And to perhaps do what other bodies have done this year by shutting down that sort of open dialogue or discussion in the final step of a budget or any process, frankly, we're sitting here condemning or criticizing what others have done, yet this feels a bit like we're looking to do the same thing, and I'm uncomfortable with it, frankly. I get it, I understand it, but I'm not sure how I get comfortable doing the same thing. I like to think we're better than that as a body.
Mark, I appreciate your comments. I just felt that, and I will abide by whatever this committee decides. But I did think that it needed to be raised, and not on the meeting of the 8th at that time saying, by the way, we weren't allowed to speak or provide input. But Seth, on the other side, if anything does come out, number one, it will be coming out of a committee where they would have had to vote on it. I'm not anticipating somebody individual from the floor. That's number one. So everybody will be aware of it. And number two, anything that may also come out are things that have been previously communicated to both boards, to all 3 boards. So there will be no surprises if anything does come out at least I can speak from F&B, everything that was discussed has already been communicated to them.
All right. Teresa.
Teresa, you're muted.
Yep, I got that. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so, with regard to having Jamie or Tara there to answer questions, or John, in reality, as a body, shouldn't the chairs of each committee be able to answer those questions? I mean, isn't it our job to understand our portions of the budget as well as the people who created it at this point? Shouldn't we be able to answer those questions?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's a wild,
No, but what I mean, like, if at our Zoom meeting, like, anybody who asks a question about a particular aspect of the budget from the floor, Clara should be able to answer the education question. Jack should be able to answer whatever comes up from FMB. Mac should be able to answer anything that comes up on his committee. Like, we should be just as much of the expert on our committees as the people who created those budgets. We shouldn't need them to answer our questions, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's all well and good, except that sometimes it doesn't work that way. And so, there's no way out on that. Okay, let's see. Now, it looks like, are we ready to vote here?
Can you confirm what we're voting on?
Monica,
Yeah, we restate the motion and see if we have a second.
Mark, would you read the motion, please?
Sure. Consistent with precedent of other boards, only members of the Darien Representative Town Meeting will be speaking during the June 8th budget meeting. All other comments must be submitted to the moderator no later than 6:30 p.m. on June 8th, 2020.
Okay. Questions on the motion? All right. Ready to vote?
Did we have a second on that motion, Seth? I'm sorry. I don't have a
Yes,
second.
Teresa.
Monica.
Teresa, thank you.
Monica? I don't see her. Huh?
Monica's no longer at the meeting.
Well, let me see if I can reach her. Something
I'll
happened.
text her right now.
All right.
Seth, do you think
My computer has crashed 3 times tonight trying to get back.
try her phone?
I'll text her to try her phone.
Phone works well.
I'm saying try on your phone. It worked for Frank.
Mark, I'm going to forward you the order of the resolutions that were sent to me from Wayne, from Jen. Okay? I'm going to forward you an email.
Okay.
Okay, so for Frank and Monica, we're ready to vote. Excuse me, I got a question here from Lois.
Is an interpretation of that resolution, does it apply to the public too? I mean, already.
No, the public does not. The public does not have to.
Either way, the public's out.
They can submit questions, but they don't have to speak.
The public
They
is
don't have
out.
to or they can't?
They can't speak. They can submit questions.
Okay.
Are you saying they cannot speak or they can?
They cannot.
So on a public meeting, we're excluding, my resolution excludes both the public and elected officials.
No, but
I
Jack,
just
it says only members of the Darien Town Meeting will be speaking.
Right. I'm saying my resolution excludes both from speaking, but all can submit comments.
Ah,
I just
okay,
want to
yeah.
make sure if this resolution is denied, I want to make sure that the same rights to speak are given to the public as they are to the elected officials.
Yeah. The
Because I heard you say the public officials could speak, but the public couldn't. And I have a problem with that.
They have that the way, as I understand it, because of the governor's edict, the public can submit questions, but don't have the right to dialogue. Okay. Good. We're ready to vote here. Okay.
Can you repeat Could you please repeat?
I'm sorry.
Could you please repeat the motion?
Sure.
Mark, one more time.
Consistent with the precedent of other boards, only members of the Darien Representative Town Meeting will be speaking during the June 8th budget meeting. All other comments must be submitted to the moderator no later than 6:30 p.m. on June 8, 2020.
Okay. Questions? Ready to vote? Those in favor, please.
Jack?
Ann? Teresa? Shannon? And Mike?
I got
Okay.
Teresa, Shannon, Mike, Jack. Who'd I miss? I got missing one.
And
Shannon and Ann.
Ann, got it, Ann. I got you.
And opposed?
Kemp?
Kemp's opposed.
I have Adele, Patty, Lois, and that's it. Yeah, and Mark.
Have you got me?
Yeah.
And Badaletta, Conniff, Schneider.
Did you get Did you get Monica? Seth?
Nope. McNally. I got it.
Monica McNally?
Got it. Baumgartner as well.
Right.
How is Monica voting? She's dropped off again?
Yeah.
Well, here I can check. She just texted me, my vote is no, but I think she should text that to Seth or Mark.
Yep.
All I did was say call it in or text Seth.
I'm just going to read it just to make sure I got this right,
Okay.
since it's important. No, I've got the Dave, Teresa, Shannon, Mike, and Ann. Yep. I've got Baumgartner, McNally, Schneider, Conniff, Adaletta, Kemp. Interesting. I did first names and last names. Did I miss anybody?
Yes and no. I mean, yes is in favor of the resolution, and no is not in favor of the resolution. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yep.
And so, who do you
Give me
have?
with all this, give me the count, will you, Mark?
That's
Yes. All right. In favor of the resolution, I've got 4. Davis, Teresa, Shannon. Oh, no, 5. Davis, Teresa, Shannon, Mike, and Ann. And no, against the resolution, Kemp, Adaletta, Conniff, Schneider, McNally, and Baumgartner. I will switch them all to last names.
All right. So the
So that's
motion, right? 6-5.
yeah, that's 6-5.
Thank you. All right.
I have Teresa's.
Very quickly,
I have Teresa's
is
hand up.
Monica allowed to have a vote via text? Just legally, are we allowed to do that?
Oh, she's back. She's back. And she's back.
She's phoning in. Here she is.
Yep.
Hi, sorry, my computer's crashed 3 times, so it'll go again, but, can,
Monica, say no. Please say no.
no,
No.
my vote is no.
I got it.
Hey, guys, just for fun. Okay, good.
Teresa, my other point on that is I think that we could have taken Monica's vote by text, because even if it was a tie, Seth was going to vote no.
Okay,
As
and
a
I,
tiebreaker.
The second part's independent of the first part, but I think you could have counted because it's electronic.
All right, guys.
Can I just say
Mr.
one?
Moderator,
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Moderator, before we move on,
Adele has something, and then Frank has something. Adele?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that actually I would have thought that what I had in mind was that the town officials would only be making a comment if we asked them a question.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay.
Yeah, we went through that. Okay, I got you. All right.
Wait, Frank wanted to say something.
I've got a resolution that I would like to propose. I sent it in text over to Mark a few minutes ago to keep it simple. But I propose that the Rules Committee invite the first selectman and or the director of the Board of Health to report to the RTM as to the status of executive orders concerning the COVID-19 virus and the statistics concerning positive tests and deaths in the community. Further, as permitted by FOI and privacy recommendations, further breakout as to the demographics within each statistics, i.e. age, and location, i.e. hospital or assisted living facilities, and voting district.
Why?
I second that.
Frank, we got a special meeting. I could do that because we were talking about the budget. Okay, I could do Jack's, but this is not on the agenda. This is a special meeting, and you can't put that in here.
The first selectman reports on that at every meeting.
A special meeting can vote to break the agenda by, and you have to help me on this, is it a 3/4 vote or 2/3? There's a rule you have to look up. Okay.
2/3.
I believe it's 2/3, Frank.
That's what.
Is that Rules Committee 2/3 right now, or is that the 2/3 of the meeting and once it's assembled? Because we haven't actually
2/3 of the meeting now, but
it's 2/3 of those present and voting.
Now we haven't. While we know it's going to be a special meeting, has it been called, or is this meeting tonight to prepare to send the warning out?
This is a special meeting of the Rules
Yes.
Committee.
Yes.
And it's not that one's not on the agenda. Jack's,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because
Okay,
it was part of the budget.
So if we discuss this for a moment, maybe we can change that if we want to. But personally, we've been getting news from the Darien Times and various bulletins from over the last 2 months, and by the time of the 8th, the situation will have changed. It's always changing, and I'd like to know the statistics. I'd also like to know where the people who are, what the age groups are, and that stuff. Just general good communications.
I support what Frank's saying.
Frank, if you excuse me, guys, Frank, if you want, I could, if the Rules Committee was with me on it, I could do it as part of announcements. I could ask the first select woman to come up and talk about that if you wanted.
I think that'd be great. That's exactly what we want.
Can I say one thing? I don't understand why we would do districts. That's
a great idea.
Personal. I would not be comfortable doing district.
Don't you want to know?
No, I don't. Not by districts. Why is that relevant?
All right, but I would just ask her to come up and to speak to the current status. Is that what you'd like to do?
I threw the voting district in there to be devilish. That's all right. Don't bother too much about that.
Good for you, Frank.
Thank you very much for that, Frank. All right, so
Well, look, Seth, if you can do that as announcements, I don't think we have to really vote on it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, all right.
I can put it in under announcement. Don't have to vote. But I would ask you.
Seth, if you don't mind, I would actually like to vote so that some of the items that Frank has requested are in fact addressed as part of the announcements.
All right. Give me your motion, Doctor.
Yeah,
I'll read it, Frank. I got it here.
Good. Why don't you just edit it up like you'd like?
Well, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it raw and let the team here tweak it. I propose that the Rules Committee invite the first selectman and the director of the Board of Health to report to the RTM as to the status of the executive orders concerning the COVID-19 and the statistics concerning positive tests and deaths in the community. Further, as permitted by FOIA, the privacy recommendations, further breakouts as to the demographics within each statistic, i.e. age, location, hospital or assisted living facility, and voting district.
Well, strike voting off of it right away.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perhaps all of those granular breakouts.
No, I like the granular breakouts by age.
Okay, so just voting district is struck.
Right.
Okay.
And so we're voting that these be addressed, if I might make an amendment, that these items enunciated above be addressed during the announcement on the meeting of June 8th. Because otherwise we'll just get some mamby-pamby thing. I think Frank asked very questions, and I think that the update that we want to hear are those.
Can we do this as a sense of the meeting, folks? So I don't get into special meeting alteration agenda things.
Can I just ask, should we have David Knopf do it instead of Jamie, our Director of Public Health?
Yes.
Thank you.
The resolution reads, or the Director of Board of Health.
Excellent.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Good.
So what I'm hearing Patty suggest is that our resolution should be the Director of the Board of Health and not the First Selectwoman. And I would support that from
Jack, he reports to the First Selectman.
Yeah.
You know what? New Canaan's health director has been the one updating New Canaan residents almost daily. And I think it's the health director that needs to give us that information, not Jamie.
Yeah, but Teresa, it's being done at the direction of the First Selectman, I assure you. That guy's not out on his own. They're doing it with their permission.
Jack, Ann's trying to talk.
Permission.
Jack, Ann's trying to get your attention.
I was just going to say that the guy in New Canaan who does the updates every day, I'll tell you, he gets a robocall, they get emails, there's a Facebook page. He is the Director of Emergency Management, not the Health Director.
Okay, as to a issue of intent, the intent and phrasing this up very quickly as I did, I know that David Knopf probably will make a good presentation, but I don't want to reach over the boss's shoulder to pull up somebody who reports to her. So it's only sort of diplomatic to make it the First Selectman or the department. Let them work it out. Okay. Because we have a certain in other words, we're reaching down to a subordinate without going through the boss, and it's just proper, I think, to give her a chance to talk. If she don't want to talk, the Director of Board of Health has to do it.
Fine with me.
Okay.
I think we should just for clarification, I do believe that directors of health, similar to Board of Eds, may be hired by towns or voted by towns, but I believe the Director of Health actually reports to the state and not to the town. Just as a clarification. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Okay, well, notwithstanding that, we could take the word and or to make it and the operator, because the selectman has put out certain not on whether mandates orders, if you will, that David didn't do. So some of the stuff is on Jamie's shoulders. Let Jamie answer to the questions. Notwithstanding, David didn't do everything.
Okay, Lois?
I don't think we need two people, so and/or I think is fine. I mean, we're not trying to make this a long discussion. And
Right.
that can influence who's going to slide if appropriate.
Agree with Lois.
All right. Guys, can you give us a sense of the meeting so that I don't have a problem with the special meeting deal?
Yes.
Yes, clarification. Jack had made.
The meeting on this? I see all the smiling faces and the happiness.
Jack had proposed an amendment. That's off. Am I off? No, I'm on.
No, you're on, Mark.
There's no amendment.
Seth, Mark's trying to get your attention.
The announcements.
Oh, I got it.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. It's during the announcements. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's just walk through setting the budget. I don't think we did. I think we set all the people, but not the budget. So we've got, starting off, A through G, right? Then we're going to the special appropriation. Then we're doing the 30 million bonding.
No, then you would do the 30 million refinance bonding, refunding.
Exactly, yeah. And then, sorry for the lack of detail there. Then we do the 503,000 for the repair and replacement of the sidewalk. Then we do the $1 million bond, the appropriation for the various capital improvement projects.
Right.
And
And then
that's
we do flexibility.
which? Oh yeah, well, right, yeah. Who's going to do that next? Yeah. And then the flexibility. So can I have a motion in favor of that?
So moved.
Second, please. Can't do them both, Addie. I'll take you on the
Lois.
motion.
No, I
Lois,
thought you meant Monica.
Lois is seconding. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Opposed? I don't see any. Motion carries. Agenda's been set. I'll take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, leave the meeting.
Mark, I'll give you
Thank you,
the
sir.
update. I'll send you an
Bye, guys.
on that later on this evening. All right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, dear